Prepare to get started. Oh, okay. Today is Friday, March the 13th. This is the Human Services Background Study Eligibility Task Force Subcommittee on Data meeting today at 12 o'clock. Mr. Vogel, if you could please do a roll call.
Certainly, Madam Chair. Ms. Evans?
Excuse me.
Here.
Thank you. Mr. Kammer?
Present.
Ms. Madsen?
Here.
Representative Mueller? Representative Mueller? Ms. Robertus?
Present.
Thank you. And Ms. Williamson?
Present.
All right, Madam Chair, 5 of the 6 members are present. A quorum is present.
Fantastic. Adoption of the previous meetings. Are there any objections or corrections? All right. Hearing none, we can declare the minutes as approved. Approved. All right. So today we should be pretty quick here. Just want to look to discuss our future meetings, as well as the other charges that we've received from the other subcommittees. And so with Chair Geffen, I'm really appreciative of the creation of an additional subcommittee that would focus specifically on the analysis of the data that we've received. And I know Chair Geffen and Vice Chair Evans, if you haven't already, there will be some reach outs in regards to membership on that as a part of that committee. I do want to ask, is there anyone here that has an interest in being a part of that committee? And just full transparency, Member Kammer, I made mention about your name, but just wanted to just kind of just open that up if anyone so desired to be a part of that committee that I could share with Chair Geffen. Okay. Member Kammer, did you want to say something?
I was just going to affirm that I would be interested.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you so much. All right. And this is just out of respect for there was a shift in what this subcommittee was initially requested to do. So we want to respect that. All right. So with that being said, I know we had discussed going to meet monthly. So we're back at that point here where we can decide to do so. I know that there's other data sets that we can foresee of needing to be gathered and requested. So we could look to meet monthly for now. We could even kind of branch it out to meet as we receive certain data sets, or if something has to come up with one of the other subcommittees where there's we gather together a list of additional data that's needed to be gathered. I think if we went to monthly, that would be enough time to be able to keep up with those requests as they may arise. So wanted to see how the members are feeling in regards to going to monthly. And then as you're thinking about that, also looking to just seems like this Friday at 12 does work for everyone. But just want to make sure if that will continue to be the case going forward as we're approaching the summer. And also the last part of that, if you can consider, I know our next meeting, if we're going to monthly, the next meeting would be June 10th. But I'm wondering if we want to look at maybe meeting like the 4th Fridays of each month. So yeah, just want to open that up and just see how you all are feeling about that. What are your thoughts? And please speak freely.
Um, Madam Chair, I'm a little confused as to exactly what we'll be doing and how it will be different than the committee that's analyzing. And maybe that's just me. Maybe it's just fuzzy in my head, but I'm totally open to really anything. After session is over, there's just much more availability. So that schedule would just, I'm open to what works best for the group, but I also want to make sure that I'm adding value to the committee, however that is. So, and maybe it will become clearer as we kind of get the process going, but it would help to know exactly what our charge is.
That's a great point that you raised. I know we were kind of gearing up to get into taking that deeper dive and inferential data analysis. However, this particular subcommittee, we're going to just keep with the initial charge of just gathering the data. So from what I understand, that's what this committee will just continue to be in charge of. So as the analysis is going forth, as the disqualifications and remedy subcommittees, because they have their topics, they've identified their topics or their focuses. And so like, right, for example, remedies is going over permanency right now, but they're going to shift to preponderance of evidence. So as they're making that shift, there may be some additional data that may come up that needs to be gathered as they're having their discussions and formulating what type of recommendations. So that's where they would reach out to this subcommittee in regards to giving those formal requests, is my understanding. And that's just an example. Was that helpful, Member Matson?
Yeah, I think so. I'm just trying to get my head around, I'm thinking at a certain point in time, all the data is going to be collected, but I'm hearing what you're saying, that there could be additional requests flowing through the committee. I just want to make sure that if we're gathering for a purpose, and that we're, doing good work. And if that means that I need to join the other subcommittee to be helpful, I'm happy to do that too. But if I can still be of value here, I don't know. I'm just taking it all in and trying to get it.
Well, that's really good to hear that you have an interest in the other subcommittee. To be very transparent, from what I understand, the creation of this other subcommittee was out of respect for the shift with this subcommittee, because those of us that volunteered to join, we had the understanding that we were just gathering the data. And then when it shifted to the analysis, out of respect, it's just giving those that, for whatever reason, don't feel comfortable with the analysis part or don't feel prepared to do so. This is kind of just, for lack of better words, giving it out to be able to just do the gathering. So that's more so what that is and why.
Thank you. I appreciate that directness. Thank you.
You're welcome. And I will make sure to mention with you and Member Cameron's interest. All right. Anyone else in regards to us going to monthly? And then, so if there's no objections to that, also just in regards to when we meet, I'm proposing that we consider meeting on the fourth Friday of each month. So then that way is later in the month to give time as the subcommittees are meeting and there's additional data needed to be formally requested. There's time for us to get that information versus us meeting at the beginning of the month. Okay, so the fourth Friday in June, Mr. Vogel, what date would that be?
That would be June 24th, Madam Chair.
Okay. And since we have the opportunity, will that date pose as a problem for anyone's calendars as far as you can tell?
This is Member Kammer. I will say once every quarter, I have a Board of Behavioral Health and Therapy meeting. I'm appointed to this task force as a member of the Board of Behavioral Health and Therapy. So those fall on the fourth Friday of the month. So once every quarter, I have to miss task force meetings or other meetings just because I have to be there first. So yeah.
And that fourth Friday of the month overlaps with my Minnesota Juvenile Justice Steering Committee meeting with the DOC. So that one's not great for me either. The second would be better for me, the second Friday of the month.
Okay. Okay. Is there a time that would, I know the 12 o'clock is what typically worked, but I'm just curious as to if we were to change the time.
For me, when we have Board of Behavioral Health and Therapy meetings, they usually start around 10 and they go until 2, 3. It's hard to know sometimes. So, but I would say if I'm one, just one person there, if there's just a couple of us, I don't know what amount of impact it would have, but yeah, they can be long meetings is what I'll say.
This is what it sounds like.
Can we go
If-
second Friday of the month? Because we all had it on our calendars for second Friday. So could we go second Friday of the month?
Yeah, we can continue, Member Roberta's with second Friday. I just was opening up discussion if we wanted to change it to later in the month. But yeah, we can definitely keep it the second Friday.
I understand what you're saying, Chair Williamson, but I feel like because it's like this work is so ongoing, that we're just working on whatever the last stuff is. And, it would be optimal if it was at the end of the month, but we're just working on the month before's like activities. And so I think we'll be all right if it's the middle of the month compared to the last.
All right, great. Yeah, just wanted to at least discuss it. So thank you all. And so Ms. Kassane, I wanna, let me just, with that discussion, so it sounds like we are looking to continue the second Fridays at 12 p.m. And monthly. Yeah, well, second Fridays is monthly, so excuse me, you all. So excuse me, Ms. Kassane, I want to open up the floor to you in regards to any updates that you have. I know we did submit we had been asking in regards to a date that someone from the data team could be available to give further explanation. And I know that's been somewhat of a challenge, especially with staffing. And so we were trying to make it a little easier and actually give you a date as a target. And I, wanted to give opportunity for you to let us know what updates you have or what confirmation you can give. And then if any of the members had any additional questions for you. So Ms. Kassane.
Thank you, Chair Williamson and members. I'm afraid at this point, I can't give any confirmation. We're gonna have to revisit everything after session. It just is incredibly busy as it is for everybody. But I'm not gonna be able to give a confirmation or really any further information until session is over. Fortunately, that's less than 2 weeks away, but I realize that you've been making this request and I apologize for that. But I will, as soon as session is over and things have settled down, I will again meet internally and bring up your request again. It's very helpful, if at all possible, to have written questions. Sort of dovetails with the approach we've had of having written data requests. But if we have any questions that you have, if you sort of keep a running tally of them in writing, that would be, if it's not too much of an inconvenience for anybody, that would be very, very helpful.
Yes, yeah, we have tallied some questions, but it would be very beneficial of having someone here for those explanations, because the answer that they provide may lead to another question in the moment. And so being able to, of course, we'll try to avoid that, but it would definitely be beneficial to have someone present. And you've heard that we're going to Second Friday. So if June 10th does not work, of course, seeing about the following month. And then I also want to just share that it's very likely with our new subcommittee that will be analyzing the data. We'll be looking to see what that schedule will be as well, just so that we can lock in and the date that you all are able to confirm to maximize getting as much of an explanation as we can as far as steps going forward. So thank you, Ms. Kassai. Members, were there any other questions for Ms. Kassai?
I had a clarifying question about data set 4, but I'm wondering if we should just save that for our discussion and put it in writing then, or I don't know if this is the time for that, or if we're asking more general questions.
Madam Chair, Mr. Kammer, if you don't mind me interjecting, I'm taking notes, so I can definitely just write down your question as you stated, if that's okay with you, Madam Chair.
Please.
And this might be a clarification that other members can help me with, but in looking at data set 4, we have the definitions of withdrawn, previous set aside, rescind in total, correctness affirmed, and so forth. So I'm just trying to parcel out in my head clearly which ones really are allow a person to continue practicing or it's being set aside versus not. And I get these are all specific definitions, but I just want to clarify in my mind that a withdrawn means that it's withdrawn and the person does not practice. Is that everyone else's understanding? Gina, I look like maybe I've stumped you. No, okay, good. And I guess I'm just looking in general, practice, not practice, I guess is what I'm getting at. Just so we have them, all kind of grouped, or that would be helpful in my head. Previous set aside means they can practice. So it's ultimately being set aside, is my understanding, based on a previous set aside. Remains set aside is obviously a set aside, meaning they can practice and it's being set aside. Rescind in total, my understanding of that is that it's been rescinded so they can practice. So I don't know if we'd still say set aside, but they're allowed to practice, correct? That's my take. And then set aside is, well, set aside, they can practice. Limited set aside is ultimately they can practice, but it's limited. And then not set aside, variance granted, means that I may have gotten one of these wrong here. The correctness affirmed would be a not set aside, right? So, but I guess what I'm looking for is ultimately, I want to make sure we break down so we can look how many people are allowed to practice, how many people are not allowed to practice. And I just want to make sure that my understanding is correct so that when we, parcel something out, I'm not, oops, I did it wrong or misunderstood something. So do others, and then of course in process, I think is the one that is neutral because it's still in process and we don't know if we had to put it in one bucket, it would be not allowed to practice because if it's in process, I'm assuming they wouldn't practice until a determination is made. Do others have input on that? Anyone have different understandings? I just have been trying to parcel it out in my head. So.
Yep. So I also have looked at those and feel not exactly the same questions as yours, but I was a little confused about the difference between a couple of them. And so it's that kind of stuff, Emily, that it would be great if somebody that understands it, like in the minute, was with us occasionally. Do you know what I mean? Like somebody that's working on these could just say, yep, here's the answer to that, boom, boom, boom. And then we could get back to work. doing what we're doing, especially with like the new data analysis. And so like that's a perfect example of what Chair Williamson is talking about, where we could have some dates when somebody is going to like be here with us, that we can know like this is when we can be doing those kind of things. And so I think, thank you, Roy, because that's a perfect example of what we're talking about, like having somebody that's in the weeds here with us that like understands exactly, unless you do, and then forget I said all that stuff.
And I know the intent's not to like rehash or go through the data, and I totally agree with that, but it's some of the interpretations are just helpful because, you know, I want to preserve the integrity of what's been given to us, and just, you want to make sure we get it right. And and such. So I'm going, I think I've got it right, but I don't work with this each and every day. So just I'd love to make sure that we have it right. So whatever we're displaying is on target.
Great. Thank you, Member Cameron, Member Evans, and Chair Williamson. I appreciate the. And I made note of the question as well, too. So
You appreciate the further explanation of the reason of our request. All right. Well, with that being said, I know that I just wanted to make sure. So I know that I believe, and Mr. Vogel, please correct me if I have this wrong. I know that Chair Geffen will, I don't know if maybe just at our next chair meeting, and maybe Vice Chair knows as well. But we'll have further discussion as far as when the new subcommittee will be implemented. And as far as getting that up and running. So more details, more information to come, unless Vice Chair or Mr. Vogel knows more.
Madam Chair, I see you were about to start speaking, Ms. Evans, so I'll defer to you.
Yeah, I know John just got done with school and all of that stuff, and so we'll just wait to hear more.
Fantastic. All right. Well, if all minds are somewhat clear and there's no additional questions, we can move to adjourn. Everyone's in agreement? All right. Enjoy your Friday and have a wonderful weekend. All right. Bye-bye, everyone.